So you're looking for a special dessert to make for Valentine's Day. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to make chocolate mousse, the perfect Valentine's Day dessert for you and your boo. Keep watching. If we're just meeting, I'm Denise Jordan, and I teach traditional homemaking for today's woman. So if you want to learn more about making and keeping a home, hit that subscribe button and double tap that little bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Okay, let's make some chocolate mousse. When I hear the word chocolate mousse, or shall I say the words chocolate mousse, I think, ooh, fancy. And what other time to get fancy than on Valentine's Day? It's not often that it's going to be a time when just the two of you can kick back and relax and have something special. And chocolate mousse is just one way to say I love you with a little chocolate. So now let me show you what we need to get this done. First of all, we're going to need some chocolate, and I've got 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate morsels. We're going to need 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. We're going to need 3 eggs. And then we're going to need 3 ounces of water. And since I'm using water, I'm also going to add a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring. Now here's the thing. You can choose to use whatever you want to flavor this chocolate mousse. You could use a little bit of Kentucky bourbon whiskey. You could use coffee. You could use a liqueur. You can use whatever flavoring you like. But if you do, then you might want to cut back to 2 ounces of, let's say, Kentucky bourbon, or 2 ounces of whatever liqueur you choose instead of 3. And you wouldn't need to add the vanilla flavoring. You could also even use coffee. But I'm just going to use water and then a little vanilla flavoring for my chocolate mousse. So I'm going to use a teaspoon of the vanilla flavoring that I'm going to put in the water. And then you're going to need a half a cup of sugar, but you're going to need it divided. So I've got 2 1/4 portions of sugar. And then 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. And we'll put all that together and we'll make the most delicious, the lightest, the fluffiest chocolate dessert you've ever seen. And this chocolate mousse is a spoonable chocolate mousse. It's not a molded like a jello kind of thing. It's spoonable. So now let's get started. Here's a couple things we're going to need to think about before we get started. We're going to need 2 heat-proof bowls to do some of our mixing in. And then we're going to need to put those bowls in a water bath. So I've got a relatively deep skillet here on the stove. And I've got about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of water in here. And I heated it to where it was hot. And the bubbles were forming just a little bit on the bottom, and then I turned it down to simmer. And then we will sit our bowls in the water. And so you want to check to make sure that your bowls don't crack in the water. Because when I look at these bowls, these are Pyrex bowls, and it says on the bottom of the bowl, no broiler and no stovetop. So that means that you need a bowl that can stand up to the heat. So now it's in the water bath, it's not directly on the heating element, but you still want to keep an eye on it. If you've got one of those metal bowls that you can heat without any problem, you're good to go. I don't have those kind of bowls. I have ceramic bowls or glass bowls. So I'm going to set this bowl in here to see how it does. And I let it sit for about 1 minute, and it did just fine. So I'm going to take this one out. Now I'm going to set this bowl and we'll see how it does. So I've tested both my bowls. So I'm good to go. So now I'll go ahead and get started getting some of the things put together. So I'm going to add my 6 ounces of chocolate to my bowl. And then I need 3 tablespoons of butter. And just in case you don't know, the butter is marked on the wrapper into tablespoons. And so you can just cut 1, 2, there's your 3. And then I'll just cut it up into smaller pieces. And we'll drop that in on top of our chocolate. And we're going to add our 3 tablespoons of water to this mixture. But since I'm using water and not coffee or liqueur, I also need a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring. So I'm going to add my vanilla extract to this. And now we're going to set it in our water bath. And then we will let this heat up. And the heat from the water bath will melt the chocolate and the butter, and then we will whisk all of that together. And you can see that the chocolate is starting to melt from the heat of the water bath. And we'll just stir this until it's melted, and then we'll set it aside, and then we'll work on our eggs. And we will be separating the eggs. I'll show you more about that in just a little bit. This looks pretty good, so I think I'm ready to take it off the heat and set it on the counter. Look at that, all nicely melted. So I'll set this over here on the counter to cool, and then we'll get started working on those eggs, and I will be separating those eggs. And I'm just using my hands to separate the egg whites and the egg yolks. And we don't want to break the egg yolks, because if we do, we have to start over. And I'm going to transfer the egg whites to this bowl because I need a bowl big enough to do some mixing in. Set that aside. Okay, so now we're going to whisk together our egg yolks, 3 tablespoons of water, and a 1/4 cup of sugar. So it's starting to get fluffy already. And as I said, this is going to be a spoonable mousse, not something that's really firm. See how it's a nice living yellow and it's starting to froth up? Now I'm ready to take it over to the water bath. And now here's the thing about chocolate mousse. It is time intensive, meaning that the preparation of it is not all that difficult, but you've got to make it early enough in advance so that it can sit in the fridge and cool. So you want to make sure you give yourself plenty of time to do that. So if you're going to have chocolate mousse for dinner, I suggest starting that chocolate mousse first and getting that in the fridge so that it can be chilling, and then you can do your other things. Or you can even make this a day ahead too. This is certainly a make ahead dessert. Alright, so now I'm going to put this in the water bath. So our water is still hot. I'm going to gently, slowly. You can see it's really starting to foam up, and I want to keep whisking this until it comes to the texture of marshmallow sauce. And look at that, you can see it's starting to do that. And you have to whisk this continuously, because if you don't, it will separate and then you won't get the result that you want. And now let's just see. And yes, look how nice and thick it is. It does look like marshmallow sauce. So we're going to take this out of the water bath and pour it into our chocolate sauce. And now we'll whisk that together. I can see the air bubbles just lifting up this chocolate mousse, just making it lighter and fluffier. So now I'm going to let this cool on the counter and we'll go and address the egg whites. So now we're going to beat these 3 egg whites until they are soft. Once they're soft, then we'll add a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Then we'll beat them until they're a little bit stiffer, and then we'll gradually add in our 1/4 cup of sugar, and then we'll put this into our chocolate mixture. And then to wrap all that up, we'll add a 1/4 cup of, or rather a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. So let's get that started. We want to beat them until it forms soft peaks. And so you can see right here, these are soft peaks. So now we're going to add the cream of tartar. So we'll add a 1/4 teaspoon of that. And then we'll beat it some more and form some stiff peaks. We'll gradually pour in our 1/4 cup of sugar, but you can see this is getting stiffer. Look at that. And we'll take a spatula and just make sure that everything is all mixed together. I'm scraping it from the sides of the bowl, but look at that. That's a stiff peak. So I've got a little bit more sugar left to put in. And notice that I put the sugar in gradually. I didn't put it in all at once. I put it in little by little. So now I'll mix the rest of that sugar in. Look at that. Well, that's what you call stiff peaks. I mean, that's not moving. Look at that. So that's a stiff peak. So now we're going to fold this egg white into our chocolate mixture. And we're just gently folding in. Not stirring it in, but just gently folding it in. And we just do it in small amounts. Don't dump it in all at once. You'll be tempted to do that, but you don't want to do that. Just gently fold it in, little by little. Notice it's getting to become a much lighter colored chocolate. So this is the last of the egg white. And we'll get this folded in. And notice, to fold it in, I'm just gently lifting it and turning it over. Just lift it and turn it over. So my young homekeepers out there, don't be afraid to try chocolate mousse. Experiment, expand your repertoire of cooking things. Just give it a try. And here's the deal. If it doesn't work out, try it again. If you and your boo don't like it, make something different. It's not that deep. Be adventurous. Have some fun. There's just a couple more little lumps here of there. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? So one of the last things we're going to do now is whip up this heavy cream. And these are just soft peaks. They're probably a little softer than I wanted, but that's what we have. And I'll just, again, just gently fold this in. Not a stir so much, but a gentle folding in. And so now I'll pour it into a bowl so that I can put it in the fridge and then let it chill for about 4 hours. And you want a bowl that'll hold about 5 or 6 cups. When we were little, my mom would make chocolate pudding or even a cake or whatever. We always wanted to lick the bowl and lick the spoon. So here it is, our chocolate mousse, and it looks amazing. I'm going to set it in the fridge and let it sit for about 4 hours, and then I'll get it out later on tonight. I'll spoon it into a serving dish, and we're going to have it with our Valentine's Day dinner for 2. Now, if you like this video, be sure and check out our chicken parmesan, our Valentine's Day dinner entree. It's amazing, and it's the perfect dish to have with your garlic mashed potatoes. Be sure and check out that video, and then our chocolate mousse for dessert. I'll link those videos below and with an iCard above so you can access them at your leisure. And just so you know, I've raised 3 children, and I have managed a home for more than 45 years. So if you want to learn more about making and keeping a home, subscribe. I would love to have you as a member of the TNT community. In the meantime, I'm going to get this chocolate mousse in the fridge so that I can get it out later on tonight for our Valentine's Day dinner for 2. Oh. Forgot. I'm going to cover this with a little bit of wax paper, and I'm just setting it gingerly on top, and I'm only using wax paper because I've used up all of my saran wrap. I used it up last night on something, I don't know, but I'm just going to set this on top just in case there's any other aromas in my fridge. I don't want them getting into this, so I'm just going to put just a little bit of wax paper on top like that, and I will put So when we were kids and our mom made pudding or cakes or some kind of a sweet treat, we loved to lick the bowl or the spoon or the beaters. So, delicious. I'm actually 6 years old. And in case you're wondering, how do you lick the bowl? Well, you take a finger, and in case you're wondering, how do you lick the bowl? Well, you take a finger, you get it full of chocolate sauce, and like that. Or if you want to be more delicate, just take a spoon and get it that way. Either way, it's delicious. tell you a funny story. Once when I was little, my mom made chocolate pudding for dessert. And it was probably Sunday because we didn't have desserts often. But every now and then for Sunday dinner, Mom would make dessert. And she made chocolate pudding. And I was just so excited about the chocolate pudding and watching her make it. And seriously. Are you done?
Am I done with rubbing on?
Yes. See what happened. So now let me tell you a funny story. When I was a little girl, my mom made chocolate pudding. And it was probably for Sunday dinner because we didn't have desserts often, but every now and then for Sunday dinner, she'd make a dessert. And on this particular day was chocolate pudding. I was so excited about the chocolate pudding. And this was the days when you had to cook the pudding. It wasn't like the Jell-O pudding today. You could just add the milk, stir it up, put it in the fridge, and it's ready to go. She had to cook it for a while to get it to the proper consistency and all that kind of stuff. Poured it in a bowl, set it in the fridge, cool. I decided that the chocolate pudding needed more stirring. So I went downstairs, unbeknownst to her or anyone else, and I stirred it up. Well, it had already set. So here I am stirring up this pudding. And so needless to say, when my mom came and saw what had happened to that pudding, she was horrified. And what was my punishment? I got no dessert. I had no chocolate pudding for that dinner. So, yes, I was traumatized and I've never forgotten that. So my chocolate mousse is done. It looks totally amazing. And I'm going to serve it in these little red and white ramekins. And as you can see, I'm all dressed for dinner. So let me scoop that out. It's been in the fridge for 4 hours, so it's set nicely. But it is a spoonable mousse. So I'll put it in a dish like that. Serve it with a dollop of whipped cream. So now let's dig in. It's delicious. It is so light and fluffy. Like a chocolate mousse. I love it. And the hubby's gonna like it too.